I woke up with a smile still lingering on my lips, the Los Angeles sunlight slipping through the curtains and scattering gold across the bed that still carried Olivia's scent. Our honeymoon in Hawaii felt like it had happened just yesterday. The white sand beaches, the gentle murmur of waves, and her, my wife, lying beside me with messy hair, giggling as I whispered sweet words of love into her ear. I am Xavier Shaw, 34 years old, owner of the music production company Shawleen Media, and I had never felt my life was more perfect than it was right now. Today was my first day back at the office after the break, and I was ready. I put on my favorite shirt, brewed a cup of black coffee, and thought about the projects waiting for me. A new album from a talented young artist that could very well become a massive hit. My mind still floated among the sweet memories. Kisses beneath the sunset, long evenings spent wrapped in each other's arms, unable to let go. I stepped into the garage, car keys jingling in my hand, and started my gleaming black Porsche. Morning traffic in LA was as heavy as ever, but today everything somehow felt fresher, brighter. I turned on the radio. An upbeat pop song filled the car, and I sang along, my voice a little hoarse from laughing too much over the past week. Life is beautiful, I told myself, fingers drumming the rhythm on the steering wheel. Shawleen Media was thriving, revenue was soaring, and now I had Olivia by my side, the smart, gorgeous woman who always supported me in every decision. We had been married for just 2 weeks in a lavish wedding held in a lush green garden surrounded by friends and family. I still remembered the moment she walked down the aisle, her white dress flowing, eyes sparkling as they locked onto mine. That had been the pinnacle of happiness. As I was driving to the office, my phone rang, cutting through my thoughts. I glanced at the screen. Leon, the fun-loving photographer who had shot our wedding photos. I smiled immediately, thinking about the pictures. He was probably calling to say the edits were done and ready to send over. "Hey Leon, good morning," I answered lightly. But the voice on the other end wasn't his usual booming laugh. It was hurried, tense, as though he were holding something back. "Xavier, come to the studio right now. There's something important I need to tell you." No greeting, no jokes like always. My heart gave a little squeeze, but I tried to stay calm. "What's wrong? Is there a problem with the wedding photos? Did you lose the data or something?" I asked, my voice tinged with worry. Leon was a professional. He rarely made mistakes, but machines can fail, right? "It's not that. This isn't something I can talk about over the phone. Just come, right now." His voice was trembling, like he was looking over his shoulder. I pressed further. "Leon, tell me something at least. Give me a hint. Does it have to do with the wedding?" But he only repeated, "I'll explain when you get here. Please, hurry." Then he hung up. I sat frozen in the car, phone still in my hand. The vagueness made me uneasy. Leon wasn't the type to be cryptic. He was always straightforward and cheerful. Something was wrong. My gut told me to go immediately, even though my rational side tried to convince me it was probably just a technical issue, corrupted files or something. But why was he so rattled? I took a deep breath, made a sharp U-turn, abandoned the route to the office, and sped straight toward Leon's studio in West Hollywood. My heart started pounding faster, a wave of unease rising in my chest as if someone were tightening a vice around it. "It's probably nothing serious," I told myself, but my stomach was churning. Suddenly, the streets of LA felt stifling, the blaring horns mocking my growing anxiety. Finally, I arrived at the studio, a small modern building with the sign Leon Photography glowing under the sun. As I stepped inside, the faint smell of photo paper greeted me. Leon was standing right at the entrance, his face pale, eyes darting behind me as if afraid someone was following. "Xavier, you're here. Quick, come inside," he whispered. Without waiting for a reply, he slammed the door shut, locked it carefully, and motioned for me to follow him deeper in. His breathing was rapid, his eyes restless, like he'd just escaped something terrible. We entered his private editing room filled with computers and photo editing equipment. Leon closed the door, drew all the curtains tight, then sat down, his hands shaking as he held a glass of water. "I haven't slept all week, Xavier," he began, voice low and heavy. "I've been agonizing over whether I should tell you this or stay silent. Because what I discovered, it's a bomb. But I can't keep quiet. You deserve to know the truth, even though I know it's going to hurt you badly." At those words, my heart was pounding like a drum in my chest. The air in the room suddenly felt suffocating and inexplicably cold. I could sense clearly that something was about to explode, a truth powerful enough to sweep away everything I thought I had firmly in my grasp. Leon looked at me, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep, then took a deep, shuddering breath as if gathering every last ounce of courage. "Sit down, Xavier," he whispered, voice trembling. "God, I wish I didn't have to do this." I sank into the old leather chair in the corner, my fists clenched so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. Leon's studio had always been a familiar, comforting place. Walls covered with wedding photos and portraits, the soft hum of computers. But right now it felt like a dark cave hiding secrets that were about to be unearthed. Leon turned to his laptop, opened the wedding photo folder, and the familiar images scrolled past. Olivia and me exchanging rings, radiant smiles under the sunlight, guests applauding. But he didn't stop there. He kept scrolling to the very bottom where a single file was marked with a glaring red flag, like a deadly warning. "Here," he said, his voice breaking, and clicked on it. The screen slowly zoomed in, each pixel expanding during several breathless seconds. I held my breath, eyes glued to the monitor, time stretching into eternity. Then the image sharpened. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. My heart plummeted into an endless abyss. On the screen was Olivia Shaw, my wife, the woman who had just held my hand and sworn eternal love before God and everyone at our wedding. Locked in an embrace with Andre Shaw, my own flesh and blood brother. Not a polite peck, but a deep, passionate, intimate kiss, the kind shared between longtime lovers. Her arms were wrapped around his neck, their lips pressed fiercely together, her eyes closed in unmistakable ecstasy. Andre's hands gripped her waist possessively, as if she already belonged to him. I blinked hard, trying to dispel the hallucination, but it stayed there, crystal clear under the glow of the screen. Olivia Shaw, 30 years old, freelance media project manager. The beautiful, brilliant, fiercely ambitious woman I had believed was the love of my life. The one with glossy brown hair and sparkling green eyes who could always make me laugh with her witty work stories. And Andre Shaw, 36, my older brother, executive vice president at Shawline Media, the arrogant, hot-tempered man I had been forced to hire because of family ties and relentless pressure from our parents. Tall, broad-shouldered, short black hair with a smile I had always sensed was fake, hiding envy. Since childhood, Andre had been the family's golden child. Better grades, smoother social skills, always favored by our parents. I had quietly built Shawline from nothing, yet he still looked at me as if I were merely lucky. And now, he was kissing my wife on our wedding day. Leon started explaining, his voice stuttering like he was recounting a horror story. "I was shooting candids in the prep area, catching those natural moments in the corners. I was just taking test shots of the space for backgrounds, and I accidentally caught them in a dark hallway. They were so lost in each other they didn't notice me standing only a few meters away. I panicked, pretended to look elsewhere, but the shutter had already clicked. That moment has haunted me all week, Xavier." I didn't know what to do. I stood rooted to the spot, barely hearing him anymore. The image of Olivia pressed against Andre stabbed straight through my heart, twisting without mercy. How was this possible? Just 2 weeks ago, we were in Hawaii on a perfect honeymoon. Olivia holding me on the beach, beaming under the sunset, whispering, "You're the most wonderful man, Xavier. I love you." Evenings by the pool, her head on my shoulder, talking about our future. Children, our dream house, how Shawline would grow even bigger with her help. She had seemed so utterly in love that I never suspected a thing. Yet on our wedding day, while I waited nervously at the altar, she was in some shadowy corner giving that devastating kiss to Andre. Our sacred wedding day turned into a cruel joke. Leon glanced at me, voice low and trembling, afraid I might collapse any second. "Xavier, try to stay calm. I know. No one could bear this. But you need to sit down and figure out the truth. Maybe there's an explanation. Calm? I wanted to let out a mad, hysterical laugh that echoed only inside my skull. How could I be calm when the woman I had slept beside for an entire week, the woman I trusted completely, had kissed another man, and worse, my own brother, on our wedding day? That photo was a time bomb, obliterating everything. My mind reeled, free-falling into darkness. The beautiful honeymoon memories, Olivia's smile under the moonlight, her warm embrace by the ocean, her promises of "we'll be together forever," suddenly twisted into something grotesque, like a horror film in which I was the main victim. I tried to breathe, but my chest felt crushed beneath a boulder. Air wouldn't come. All I could see was that image of them kissing, looping endlessly like a nightmare on repeat. As if she truly belonged to him, not to the man waiting at the altar with a bouquet in his hands. I remembered the ceremony, Olivia walking in, white dress flowing, eyes full of love as they met mine. Was that acting too? Andre standing beside me as best man, clapping me on the shoulder with congratulations. He had smiled, but now that smile felt dripping with mockery. My entire world collapsed in front of me. I couldn't tell which hurt more, the betrayal by the wife I had loved blindly, or the fatal stab from the brother I had trusted my whole life. On one side, the woman to whom I had given my entire heart. On the other, the brother I grew up with, who shared every childhood memory and secret only the two of us knew. Between those two knives, I couldn't distinguish the wounds from the despair. I only knew my chest had been ripped open and the world was cracking into pieces beneath my feet. I slumped to the floor, back against the wall, eyes still fixed on the screen. Leon closed the laptop. "I'm so sorry, Xavier. I didn't want to destroy your happiness, but you deserve to know." I nodded mechanically, but inside my head there was only chaos. How was I supposed to go home tonight? How was I supposed to look at Olivia without seeing that kiss? And Andre, he was at the office right now, working beside me. I wanted to rush over and punch him, scream and demand why. But for now I just sat there numb, feeling as if my soul had already left my body. I left Leon's studio with legs as heavy as if I were wading through quicksand. Outside, the Los Angeles sun was still blazing. Cars were still racing down the streets. People were still laughing and chatting as if nothing had happened. But for me, everything had changed. All day long I couldn't concentrate. Colleagues' voices, meetings, everything sounded like distant echoes from another world. I sat at my desk staring at the computer screen, but my mind wasn't there. It kept rewinding to the moments before the wedding that I had ignored, tiny signs that now flashed like glaring red warning lights. I clearly remembered the times Olivia would frantically text and then flip her phone face down the instant I came near. Ordinary evenings at home, the two of us on the couch watching a movie. Her phone would buzz. She'd glance at it, fingers flying across the screen at unnatural speed, then snap it shut when I asked, "Who's texting so late, babe?" "Oh, just friends," she'd say with that sweet smile that made me suspect nothing. I used to think it was work. Olivia was a freelance media project manager, always swamped with clients. But now, looking back, those messages were probably not from friends. They were probably from Andre. I pictured him sending something flirty, a secret date invitation, a private joke, and her quickly hiding it so I wouldn't see. My chest tightened, as if someone were squeezing my heart. How could I have been so stupid? Why didn't I ask more? Why didn't I pick up her phone? Then there were the nights I woke up and accidentally caught her on the balcony talking on the phone in a hushed voice, as if afraid someone might overhear. It was about 2 months before the wedding when everything was hectic with preparations. I'd woken up thirsty, stepped out of the bedroom and saw her silhouette on the balcony, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was low, broken. "No, not now. It's too late. Tomorrow, okay? I'm scared he'll hear." I asked, "Who are you talking to?" She startled, spun around and hung up instantly. "Urgent work thing, a difficult client calling late." I laughed, hugged her from behind, thinking how lucky I was to have such a hard-working fiancé. But now, sitting in my dark office, I realized that whisper wasn't for a client. It was probably Andre calling in the middle of the night to exchange forbidden sweet nothings. I gripped the armrest so hard my nails drew blood. How many of those calls had there been? How many lies had I swallowed whole? At family gatherings, the way Olivia and Andre's eyes sometimes met, not long but long enough that now, in hindsight, I could see the strange intimacy. The Shaw family got together every month at my parents' house. Barbecues, red wine, everyone laughing about work and life. I remembered one evening about 3 months before the wedding. Olivia was sitting across from Andre. When he told a funny story, her eyes sparkled and locked onto his for just a few seconds, long enough to create an invisible current. At the time, I thought it was just friendly family warmth. Now, it was flirtation, a secret between two traitors. I wanted to scream in the office, smash something to vent the rage. How had I not seen it? How had I let them play me right under my nose? I remembered how Andre always found excuses to linger a few minutes after dinner, and Olivia would conveniently volunteer to clear the table and follow him to the kitchen. It had become so routine I never noticed. Dinner would end, people would start leaving, and Andre would say, "Let me help clean up a bit," then disappear into the kitchen. Olivia would smile, "I'll help Andre," and follow. I'd stay in the living room chatting with my parents about the company, thinking they were just washing dishes. But now, those minutes were probably stolen moments for touching, whispering, maybe even kissing in the shadows. Nausea rose in my throat, my stomach twisting. The clinking of plates and glasses from the kitchen now echoed in my head like mocking laughter. They had used our family, used me, to hide their filthy affair. And then there was the time Olivia suddenly changed her wedding dress fitting appointment, claiming a work emergency. On the exact same day, Andre mysteriously vanished from the office with no explanation. It was a week before the wedding. The fitting had been scheduled for months. That morning, she called me from the bridal salon. "Babe, I have to reschedule. Something urgent came up." I asked worriedly, "Reschedule? Are you okay?" She laughed. "I'm fine, just a last-minute meeting." Meanwhile, at the company, Andre didn't show up. His assistant said, "Mr. Andre said he had personal business." I thought nothing of it then. But now, they had met somewhere, a hotel, his apartment. I pictured them tangled together, laughing about the idiot brother waiting for his fiancée to try on wedding dresses. Every tiny detail I once dismissed now fit together perfectly, connecting straight to that horrific photo from this morning. They flashed through my mind like a fast-forward movie, each piece clicking into place, forming a complete portrait of betrayal. I realized Olivia and Andre had been together long before I even met her, maybe longer than I'd known her. But what chilled me to the bone was the question, why had she still agreed to marry me? Why not choose Andre? Or was there something bigger, some plan? A dark suspicion spread through my mind like ink in water. Was it about money? About Shaolin Media? I clenched my fists, forcing the rage down. Blood pounded in my temples, but I knew I had to stay calm. I couldn't act impulsively. I needed to understand everything before I exposed them. I took a deep breath, called my assistant to cancel all afternoon meetings, and sat there mapping out my next moves. Surveillance, investigation, evidence. When the sun set, I drove home, my heart hammering so hard it felt ready to burst. The house, once my sanctuary, now felt like a trap. I pulled into the garage, took a deep breath, and walked inside. Olivia came running to greet me, radiant smile, arms open wide as if nothing in the world was wrong. "Honey, you're home. I made your favorite Italian dish." The smell of food filled the air, but her effortless warmth sent chills down my spine. She kissed my cheek, eyes sparkling. The perfect, loving wife. The old joy was gone. I wanted to shove her away and scream, "How dare you betray me?" But I forced myself to play the happy husband and hide every thought. "Really?" "Thank you, babe," I said with a stiff smile, hugging her back while my arms felt like wood. Dinner unfolded in suffocating pretense. I watched her every move, the way she poured wine, the way she laughed while talking about work, the way she looked at me with love. I felt sick at how professionally she performed the role that had fooled me for so long. Every smile was a mask now, every word scripted. I began probing, little by little. Do you remember the days leading up to the wedding? How did you feel back then? She nodded, smiling softly. Of course, honey. Those were the happiest days of my life. I pushed further. On the wedding day, did you meet anyone privately before walking down the aisle? She blinked quickly, then flashed an overly bright smile. Meet someone privately? No, I was just greeting guests. Why are you asking such a strange question? I didn't let up. And that time you had that sudden emergency right before the wedding? What was that about again? Work, right? She hesitated for a split second, then swiftly changed the subject. Speaking of work, I got an exciting new project today. Eat, honey, it's getting cold. Every answer tried to fill the gaps, yet only made the gaps more obvious. My pulse raced, adrenaline surging, but I kept the smile plastered on, pretending to be calm. That night, as we lay side by side in bed, I could feel her breath beside me. Something that only days ago had felt comforting now made my stomach turn. I stared at the dark ceiling while plans swirled in my head. Track them, gather proof, confront them. I couldn't let them keep playing me. Tomorrow morning I would start. The next morning, the Los Angeles sun filtered through the curtains as usual. But for me, it carried no warmth at all. I got up earlier than normal, forcing everything to look perfectly ordinary. I kissed Olivia lightly on the cheek, took a sip of coffee out of habit, then hurried out the door with the usual excuse. Emergency meeting at the office. On the drive, my hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, my mind still replaying Leon's photograph on an endless loop. I couldn't wait any longer. The moment I reached the office, I locked the door, pulled out my phone and called Mason Colt, my best friend from college, now one of the most reputable private investigators in LA. We'd shared everything over the years, beers, life stories, and now this dark secret. Mason, I need your help, I said, keeping my voice low so no one outside could hear. I told him everything. The photo, my suspicions, every red flag I'd ignored before the wedding. Got it, Xavier. I'll dig into Olivia and Andre, schedules, meeting spots, old connections. Completely discreet. But are you sure? This could hurt like hell. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I'm sure. I need the truth. At the same time, I contacted a security company I trusted and ordered discreet cameras installed throughout the house, tiny ones hidden in corners on bookshelves connected directly to my phone. They came at noon while Olivia was out and finished the job quickly. Sir, the system will alert you the instant there's movement, the technician said. I nodded, heart racing. Now I had eyes everywhere. Living room, kitchen, even the bedroom. Not to spy on my wife, but to catch the traitors. I sat in my office, refreshing the camera app, staring at an empty house that suddenly felt like a ticking bomb. Everything was changing. I was no longer the naive Xavier. The following days were pure torture. I played the perfect husband. Came home on time, smiled, laughed, even held Olivia at night so she wouldn't suspect anything. But every night I lay awake, checking the empty feeds, waiting. Then 3 days later, Mason called. Xavier, first report is ready. I just sent it encrypted. Check your email. I opened the laptop with shaking hands. The report came with photos. Olivia and Andre meeting in a hidden cafe 2 years ago before she had ever appeared in my life. Pictures of them holding hands in a park, old backed-up text messages, proof they'd been secretly involved for years. It started during a joint project, Mason noted. They covered their tracks well, but there are traces. Hotel bookings, business trips that overlapped. I read every line, every note, feeling my heart being ripped apart. Those photos cut like knives. Olivia beaming beside Andre, fingers intertwined, while I had proudly introduced her to my friends as the love of my life. The realization that I was just a pawn moved into place made me numb with rage. I'm the owner of Charlene, wealthy, successful. Was I just their cover, or something they planned to take? I slammed my fist on the desk, tears rolling down my face. "How dare you treat me like this?" I whispered to the empty room. But the worst was yet to come. The next afternoon, while I was half listening to a blurry online meeting in my office, my phone buzzed. Motion detected in the living room. My heart slammed against my ribs. I opened the app, hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped the phone. The screen showed Olivia and Andre in my own living room, moving as if they owned the place. She was wearing a short dress, he was taking off his jacket. They laughed about something, then crashed into each other like they'd been starving for the touch. Passionate, shameless, right in the home I had built for our little family. I saw every detail. Andre's hands sliding down her back, their mouths fused, clothes hitting the floor. The living room where we used to watch movies and have dinner had become the stage for their betrayal. The audio was crystal clear. Amid the heavy breathing and whispers, Olivia whined in that spoiled tone. "Why have you been so distant lately? We barely meet, you hardly text. I'm exhausted playing the perfect wife for Xavier all the time." Her voice was sweet as honey, but every syllable burned like acid in my ears, corroding the last scraps of trust I had left. She complained that being with me suffocated her, called me boring, predictable, said I never made her feel truly alive. Only Andre did. "You make me feel truly alive, Andre. Xavier, he's just stability, just a safe backup." Andre held her and soothed her. "Be patient a little longer, baby. Everything is falling into place. Soon we won't have to hide or pretend in front of anyone anymore." They never spelled out what everything meant, but those half-spoken words sent ice through my veins. There was something bigger behind the affair. Money, the company, something even more vicious. I shook with rage, fists clenched so tight my knuckles went white. Humiliation and fury surged past the breaking point. The feed kept rolling. They tumbled onto the couch, giggling. I wanted to smash the phone, wanted to scream. This was my house, my family. I bolted from the office without a word to anyone, ran to the garage like a madman, and drove home in a blind whirlwind. Wind whipped through the open windows, but it did nothing to cool the fire inside me. Only one goal remained: catch them red-handed in my own home. I floored it, ran red lights, horns blaring around me like mocking laughter. "You're going to pay," I muttered, tears blurring my vision. I screeched to a halt in front of the house, tires screaming, and stormed inside, kicking the living room door so hard it slammed against the wall. Olivia and Andre jumped apart, naked and sweating, scrambling for clothes. She clutched a throw pillow to her chest. He yanked his pants up. But after the initial shock, there was no shame on their faces, only annoyance at being interrupted, as if I were the intruder. "Xavier? Why are you home so early?" Olivia stammered, cheeks flushed, but not from guilt. I charged forward without a word and drove my fist straight into Andre's face. The punch carried every ounce of rage and humiliation that had built up, from the photo, Mason's report, the sleepless nights. Andre staggered, blood pouring from his nose, but he quickly steadied himself and wiped it away with the back of his hand. His eyes still held defiance and contempt, as if I were the one out of line. "Are you insane, Xavier? Calm the hell down," he growled, voice dripping with sarcasm. Olivia, still covering herself, tried to explain in a trembling but rehearsed voice, You've got it all wrong. This was just a moment of weakness. I've been so lonely. You're always busy, never home. I made a mistake with Andre." She blamed me, my absence, my work, as if I were the reason she'd jumped into bed with my own brother. Andre just smirked. "It's just emotions we couldn't control, Xavier. You're blowing this way out of proportion. You live in this perfect little fantasy while the real world is a lot dirtier. Not everyone is as flawless as you like to think." Hearing those words felt like someone twisting a knife in my heart. Pain radiated through my entire body. They didn't apologize. They didn't show remorse, just excuses, blame, and contempt. To the two people in front of me, my pain was nothing but an inconvenience to their love. I stood there panting, staring at them. Olivia forcing an awkward smile, Andre wiping blood with a challenging glare. "You really think I'm that much of an idiot?" I roared, voice breaking. They said nothing, just exchanged a quick glance, a look loaded with meaning, as if they were already calculating their next move. I turned and walked out of the house, leaving them in the wreckage they'd made. The night wind in LA was biting cold, but the fire inside me still raged. This wasn't the end. I drove straight to my parents' house, clinging to the faint hope that Joseph and Laurel Shaw might offer some comfort, even though a cold distance had always existed between us. Maybe just this once blood would mean something. Maybe they would hug me, tell me everything would be all right, and we would face Andre together, the golden son they had always favored. Their Beverly Hills mansion stood grand as ever, manicured gardens, a pool shimmering under floodlights. I parked at the gate, took a deep breath to steady myself, and rang the bell. Mom opened the door, startled. "Xavier, it's so late. Come in, your dad's watching TV." I stepped into the familiar living room, Mom's perfume in the air, and sank onto the soft leather sofa. Dad muted the television and looked at me curiously. "What's wrong, son? You look like you've been in a fight." I took a deep breath and told them everything. Leon's call, the horrific wedding photo, Mason's report, and finally catching Olivia and Andre half naked in my own living room. I laid it all out, voice shaking with rage and pain, expecting them to be furious on my behalf, to summon Andre and tear into him. Their reaction left me frozen. Dad waved it off, shaking his head like I was telling a childish story. "Come on, Xavier. It's just a private matter. No need to make a scene. Adults can sort these things out quietly." He sipped his whiskey, calm as ever, and I wanted to scream. "A man has to learn to let things go, son. Don't lose the family's dignity over women's issues. Olivia is your wife. Andre is your brother. Just talk it out and move on." Mom jumped in, voice trembling but still trying to sound gentle. "He's right, honey. Andre is your brother. We need peace in the family. These things aren't worth breaking blood ties over. Think about it. If this gets out, what will the papers say? Our reputation." She kept repeating that word, eyes fixed on the floor, avoiding mine. I couldn't believe they were dismissing my pain, defending Andre to the end. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. "Mom, Dad, what are you saying? They betrayed me. In my own house. How can you call this nothing? I'm your son too." My voice cracked. Dad just shrugged. "Life is complicated, Xavier. Everyone makes mistakes. Andre's your older brother. He'll fix it." Mom nodded, reaching to stroke my hand, but the gesture felt hollow now. I stood up, swaying like I was drunk, feeling the floor collapse beneath me. They didn't hug me. They didn't comfort me. They only urged me to stay quiet for the sake of family harmony. I walked out of the house I'd once called home, feeling utterly empty, as if I had never truly belonged there. The night wind hit me again, colder and deeper than before. In the car, I dropped my head onto the steering wheel. Loneliness crashed over me like a tidal wave, sweeping everything away. Tears came hot and fast, and I cried like a child, not for Olivia or Andre, but because I finally understood that I had never really had a family. Memories flooded back from childhood. Andre was always the favored one because he was the extroverted son, just like Dad, expected to carry the family legacy. He ran around, played sports, and our parents beamed, "Andre takes after your father. He'll do great things." I, Xavier, quiet, introspective, the kid who sat alone listening to music or reading, was never the ideal son. I still remember rainy afternoons in the backyard, Dad spending hours teaching Andre how to negotiate using little business games while I was shooed away. "Go play somewhere else. Don't bother Andre while he's learning," he'd say, as if it were obvious. Mom was the same. She always hugged Andre first, asked about his day first. I stood behind them, silent, a shadow no one noticed. School years were no different. Andre got the praise, my efforts were downplayed. Every achievement of mine was compared and diminished to lift him higher. In 5th grade, I won first place in the school music competition. They barely acknowledged it. Good job, but Andre just won the citywide soccer championship. In high school, I excelled in math and composed music, but at every parent-teacher night, they only bragged about Andre. Team captain, class president, our golden boy. My hard work was invisible, always second place. I pushed harder, studied music and business in college, but they still looked at me like, try harder, be more like your brother. When I grew up and built Shawline from nothing in a garage with a few demos into a real empire, I supported them financially. Monthly checks, house repairs, even paying off Dad's bad investments. Yet at every family gathering, they only praised Andre. Andre is vice president now. He'll take Shawline to the next level. I sat there smiling stiffly while my heart ached. Even when I covered Mom's medical bills and Dad's vacations, they never truly valued my contributions. All the pride, all the praise went to Andre. Andre's so smart, just like his old man, right, Laurel? They'd say while I was just Xavier. Well, he's done okay, thanks to Andre too. Tonight, sitting alone in the car, the painful truth finally sank in. From the day I was born, I had never truly been part of this family. I had always been the shadow behind Andre, never important enough. The tears stopped. Numbness spread through me instead. I drove aimlessly, not knowing where to go, only knowing I couldn't go back to that house or face Olivia pretending to be the perfect wife. The LA freeways were nearly empty at night, yellow streetlights stretching on forever. Eventually, I pulled into the company garage, dark and silent, and walked into the Shawline Media building. The offices were deserted, lit only by faint emergency lights. I leaned back in my chair in the dark boardroom. Tonight, the company was the only place I could hide, the only place I still felt I existed. In the days that followed, I never went back home. I took a room in a small, rundown hotel near downtown LA. Hard mattress, musty smell, but at least Olivia wasn't there. I ignored the flood of texts and calls from her, apologies that poured in thick and fast, each one so rehearsed it made me want to throw up. Honey, I made a terrible mistake. Please let me explain. We've built so much together. Don't let this destroy everything. Every message was another knife twist, a reminder of how perfectly she could act. I deleted them all. Blocked her number, but the words still haunted me. Andre called a few times too, his tone arrogant and dismissive. You're overreacting, Xavier. It's not what you think. I didn't answer. I spent my days in that hotel room, lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The company kept running. I attended meetings online from my laptop, but my mind was elsewhere. Plans, evidence, truth. Mason was still digging non-stop, and I was waiting like a bomb with the timer ticking. One afternoon, while I was sitting in a cafe near the hotel nursing a double espresso to stay awake, my phone buzzed. Mason. His voice was grave in a way I rarely heard. Xavier, you need to come now. I've got something big. Meet me at the old bar downtown. Quiet spot. My heart started pounding. The air suddenly felt heavier. Mason never exaggerated. If he said it was big, it was a nuke. I raced to the car and tore through LA's clogged streets, the late afternoon sun stabbing my eyes but doing nothing to ease the dread. The old bar, the one where we used to drink cheap beer in college, was dim and smoky. Mason was in the corner booth, face pale, laptop already open. Sit down, he said quietly. I found something that tops everything else. I pulled video from a private source, hidden camera inside your parents' house. Watch this. Brace yourself. He hit play. The footage was crystal clear, audio sharp like a horror movie starring me. In the living room of Joseph and Laurel Shaw's house sat my father, my mother, Andre, and Olivia, faces tense like a crisis meeting of criminals. Dad at the head of the table, red-faced with anger. Mom nervously stroking her hand, Andre leaning back, irritated, Olivia beside him, gripping his arm. The atmosphere was suffocating. Dad spoke first, voice low and calculating. Xavier finding out about the affair has put the whole plan at risk. We need to move fast before the kid gets a lawyer or triggers a company audit. My heart stopped. Plan? What plan? Mom jumped in, voice shaking but resolute. Andre, delete every email and message. Anything tied to the money we've been siphoning from Charlene these past months, nothing can be left behind. Andre nodded, cold as ice, like this was just another Tuesday. Already on it, I'll finish moving the remaining funds to shell accounts under friends' names before Xavier notices the books are off. Olivia chimed in, trembling but calculating beneath the fake tears. I can't get close to Xavier anymore to trick him into signing more documents. We need another way to cover the forged papers I already got him to sign. Dad folded his arms, eyes glinting with cunning. I'll call our lawyer, have him draft new files, backdate them so it looks like Xavier approved everything long ago. That way he can't fight it in a divorce. Mom was breathing fast, growing more frantic. If Xavier demands a fair split of assets, every dollar we took will come out. We have to get ahead of him, plant fake evidence, anything to shut him up. Each word was a cold blade sliding into me, twisting deeper. I sat there, reeling, gasping for air, gripping the booth until my knuckles ached. They hadn't just known about Andre and Olivia's affair. They'd been part of it, orchestrating it. My own parents, the people I'd gone to for comfort, had pretended to scold me while secretly running the entire conspiracy. The deepest wound wasn't the cheating anymore. It was that my entire family had colluded for years in a calculated scheme to steal everything I'd built. Charlene, the company I'd sweated blood for, from signing my first contracts in dingy cafes to pulling all-nighters in the studio with artists, was now their target. They'd been draining money, forging documents, using Olivia as bait to get my signature. I was just a pawn to my own blood. Jesus Christ, I can't believe what I'm seeing, I whispered, tears rolling down my face. Mason put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, man, but you had to know. I stood up numb, the betrayal from my own flesh and blood leaving me no way back. My mind spun, but a steel resolve rose inside me. I would expose every last one of them. They would not win. I looked at Mason. Get me everything, legally airtight, forged powers of attorney, secret meetings, full transaction history, recordings of private conversations. Nothing left out. He nodded. I'm on it, but are you sure? This is your family. Family, I growled. They stopped being my family the moment they decided to rob me. Mason worked at lightning speed. He verified digital signatures on suspicious documents, hired forensic handwriting experts. Every stroke I'd signed without a second thought because Olivia had smiled and said, just routine, honey. Bank statements matched perfectly with the days Andre and Olivia had secretly visited banks under the guise of work. Night after night in that hotel room, I received updates. $50,000 withdrawn the same day they checked into a hotel. Another transfer to an account under one of Joseph's old associates. Each revelation was a punch, but I didn't fall. I hired an independent auditor, Elena, a no-nonsense woman with thick glasses and 30 years of experience, to comb through every cent in Shawline's books. She worked around the clock. Mr. Shaw, this is massive. Shares quietly transferred, fake internal loans. I brought in a corporate attorney, Ryan Young, razor-sharp, merciless, to review every paper Olivia had ever handed me. Clear fraud, Mr. Xavier. Signatures altered, terms changed after the fact. Piece by piece, the full picture emerged. Hundreds of thousands siphoned off, shares silently shifted into Andre's name, internal emails from Joseph to Andre about securing Shawline's future. One email read, Xavier's too naive. Let Olivia handle him. We'll own it all. I read it with shaking hands, feeling stabbed all over again. In that hotel room, I lay awake night after night, piecing together how they'd planned it. Olivia approaching me at a party, Andre encouraging it, my parents backing them the whole time, all to steal the empire I'd built from nothing. The pain was still there, shattered family, fake love, but now it had turned into a weapon. I would not stop. The storm was coming, and this time I was the one in control. The days that followed passed in a numb haze, as if I were trapped inside a nightmare I couldn't wake from. For 2 straight days, I sat in that cramped hotel room, papers spread across the bed, compiling every last piece of evidence. The emergency meeting video Mason had obtained, my parents, Andre and Olivia plotting like a criminal syndicate, was carefully duplicated. Bank statements showing irregular transfers, forged documents with doctored signatures, photos Mason had taken of Andre sneaking in and out of banks with briefcases, secret meeting logs pulled from their phones, and the detailed forensic reports from independent auditor Elena. Her final report had arrived. Mr. Shaw, this is clear embezzlement. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are gone, and every trail leads directly to your brother. Every page was another stab, reminding me of the horrific truth. They hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. They had stolen the work of my life. I took no chances. I backed everything up in 3 separate places. An external drive locked in the hotel safe, a double-encrypted personal cloud, and an encrypted USB I now wore around my neck like a talisman. Just in case they tried to destroy the evidence, who knew what they'd do when cornered. The full dossier went to corporate attorney Ryan. The moment he received the files, I called him. Prepare everything. I'm suing all 4 of them for embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy, and forgery. I want them in prison. Ryan exhaled heavily but sounded rock solid. This will be a war, Mr. Xavier, but with this evidence, we win. I nodded alone in the room, feeling like I was holding a live grenade with the pin already pulled. When everything was ready, audit printed, videos backed up, lawsuit confirmed, I knew it was time to face them in person. Not because any affection remained, but because I wanted to look into their eyes the moment their lies collapsed. I sent one single message to the family group chat. Everyone at Mom and Dad's house, 7 p.m. tonight. I have something important to say. Nothing more. My phone immediately exploded. Olivia first, pleading in every word. Xavier, what's going on? You're scaring me. Andre next, prickly and annoyed. Tonight, I've got plans, but fine, I'll move them. 7 works. Dad, urgent and controlling. Done. We'll be home. Whatever it is, we'll talk tonight. Mom added a short line. Okay, honey. We'll all be here. I'll make some food. I ignored them all, tossed the phone onto the chair, and drove through LA at dusk, my heart pounding like war drums. The house that held my childhood now felt like an arena waiting for blood. I parked, took one deep breath, and walked in. The moment I stepped into the living room, all 4 stared at me with guarded, irritated expressions at being summoned so abruptly. Joseph sat at the head of the dining table, face already flushed with barely contained anger. Laurel beside him, nervously turning a water glass in her hands. Andre lounged on the sofa, defiance flashing in his eyes but undercut by unease. Olivia sat next to him, pale as a ghost, eyes red from crying. The air was thick, the smell of cold coffee hung heavy. Xavier, sit down, Joseph began, trying to sound patriarchal. What's so serious? I didn't sit. I stood in the center of the room, opened my laptop, and connected it to the big TV screen. I'll keep it short, I said. I know everything, all of it. Calmly, deliberately, I laid it out. The embezzlement through secret transfers, the forged files created to hide the theft, how they had used Olivia to manipulate me into signing fraudulent documents, and the long-term conspiracy to seize Shawline. I spoke in an even, crushing tone. 2 years ago, Olivia approached me not out of love, but as part of the plan. Andre drained the reserve funds, Dad cooked the books, Mom covered it up. All of it to steal the company I built from nothing. The room fell deathly silent, only ragged breathing. Olivia turned white as paper. Andre gripped the armrests. Joseph's brow furrowed deep. Dad reacted first, trying the same denial he always used in family arguments. What are you talking about? Those documents are just internal misunderstandings. Every transfer had a legitimate reason. Investments, family support. You're blowing this out of proportion, Xavier. His voice still carried authority, but I saw his hand tremble around the glass. Mom jumped in, voice shaking, trying to smooth things over as always. He's right, sweetheart. It was all to keep the family stable. Your father did everything out of love to secure your future. We're family. How can you think so badly of us? She looked at me pleadingly, but I saw the lie. She knew everything from that emergency meeting. Andre flared up, face red, snarling, "You've got it all wrong, Xavier. Those were temporary adjustments. The company belongs to the family, not just you. Who the hell do you think you are, accusing me?" He stood, jabbing a finger at me, but his eyes flicked to Olivia for help. She trembled, voice breaking. "Xavier, I only did what your parents told me to. I never meant to hurt you. I got caught up in it. I really loved you. Please don't think I'm the villain." She tried to distance herself, tears streaming, the same performance I'd fallen for countless times. I ignored their excuses and began showing the evidence on the screen. First, the emergency meeting video. Their own voices crystal clear, discussing erasing traces and moving money. Dad's voice boomed. "Handle it fast before Xavier triggers an audit." The room froze. Next, photos of Andre leaving banks with briefcases matching bank statements, internal emails from Joseph to Andre. Plan to control Charlene is going smoothly, all thanks to Olivia. Then the forged documents with expert reports proving the signatures had been altered. Each piece detonated like a bomb, illuminating the darkness. The room sank into heavy silence, every face drained of color. There was no way left to deny it. Joseph still tried, voice now desperate. "Where did you even get these? They could be faked." Mom broke, tears spilling. "Xavier, it was just a mistake. Give your family a chance to make it right. We're blood. Don't take it this far." Andre clung to arrogance until the end, sneering, "You think you've won? This is all a misunderstanding." But panic filled his eyes when the signature forensic slides appeared. Olivia collapsed to her knees, clutching my legs, sobbing, "Forgive me. I got pulled into this. I never wanted it. Please don't sue. I don't want to go to prison." Dad begged too, voice urgent. "Taking this to court will destroy the whole family, Xavier. For the sake of blood, let it go. I'll pay the money back. I'll fix everything." Mom, tears streaming. "Please, son, don't make it public. Don't drag us through the courts. Have mercy on your old parents. Keep the family's honor." I looked at each of them in turn. No more anger, only emptiness and finality. These familiar faces now belonged to strangers in a tragic play. "Any apology now is meaningless," I said, my voice calm and ice cold. "You betrayed me long before any of this came out. Not today, not when I was a child, not when I built Shawline, not when Olivia walked into my life. You are not my family. You are just greedy thieves." The living room seemed to freeze. Only Olivia's sobs and Joseph's heavy breathing remained. I walked to the door and left them with one final sentence echoing behind me. "Prepare to see me in court. From now on, justice is the only thing that will answer for what you've done." The door slammed shut. I got in the car and drove into the LA night. My heart no longer hurt. Only resolve remained. The storm had arrived, and this time I would be the one to end it. The next morning I woke early, took an ice-cold shower to sharpen my mind, and called Ryan, my attorney. "I've thought it through. File it," I said, short and flat. Everything was already prepared, a thick lawsuit backed by ironclad evidence of embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy, and document forgery. The emergency meeting video, bank statements, forensic signature reports, every piece sealed tight, no gaps. Ryan filed at the Los Angeles Superior Court that same morning. I sat in a nearby cafe waiting, heart racing not from fear but from anticipation, like waiting for a bomb to detonate. Within hours, the court responded swiftly. Immediate freeze on all accounts belonging to Joseph, Andre, and Olivia. Not a single dollar could be touched. Search warrants issued for Charlene Media's offices to seize related documents. I pictured police storming Andre's office, rifling through his desk, walking out with the files he thought were safely hidden. I smiled coldly to myself and took another sip of black coffee. This was the beginning of their collapse. News spread like wildfire on dry grass. Within hours, the Los Angeles press exploded with headlines about the Shaw family tearing itself apart. Charlene Media CEO sues parents and brother for embezzling hundreds of thousands. LA Times. Power family scandal. Wife's betrayal, brother steals company. TMZ. Social media erupted. Hashtag Shaw family scandal trended nationwide. This is horrifying, family treating each other like this. Xavier Shaw is the victim, hope he wins. Joseph and Andre immediately hired a top Beverly Hills firm, the kind that handles Hollywood scandals, and fired back with an official statement. Xavier is fabricating stories to seize full control of the company. We will prove our innocence in court. They went further, smearing me online, denying responsibility, spreading lies that I was trying to destroy my own family out of personal ambition. In the middle of that media storm, Olivia tracked me down at the hotel. I still don't know how, maybe the front desk, maybe she followed me. It was a drizzly afternoon when I stepped out of the elevator to meet Ryan. The doors opened and she lunged at me like a ghost, grabbing my arm, sobbing hysterically, "Xavier, drop the lawsuit. I'm begging you." Her eyes were red, mascara running, voice trembling with theatrical desperation. "I only did what your parents and Andre told me to. I never wanted to hurt you. I was forced, you know that." She collapsed to her knees in the hallway, strangers staring, voice breaking. "Please give me a chance to negotiate a lighter sentence. I swear I'll tell everything if you just spare me. We loved each other, don't you remember?" Tears streamed down her face, fingers clutching my pant leg like a drowning woman. I looked down at her, eyes cold enough to make her flinch. In my mind flashed the image of her wrapped around Andre, her whispered words, "You make me feel truly alive." No love remained, only disgust. I turned and walked away without a word, straight out the lobby doors, never looking back. I left Olivia crumpled on the floor, her sobs echoing behind me, but they no longer reached me. That moment made her understand. No matter how much she begged, the last door had slammed shut forever. I got in the car and drove off, feeling a heavy weight finally lift. Olivia was gone from my life for good. The following weeks were hell. Endless waiting and preparation. The trial began under blinding media attention. Reporters packed outside the courthouse, cameras flashing like a thunderstorm. I walked into the courtroom beside Ryan, black suit pressed sharp, but my chest heavy. Joseph's side fought tooth and nail. Their lawyers claimed, "This is just an internal family misunderstanding, no criminal intent." They produced fake documents, paid friendly witnesses, twisted every transfer into legitimate family investments. Andre sat there at first with his usual arrogant smirk, but it faded fast as my evidence rolled out. The digital signature forensic report, experts proving the signatures had been altered, silenced their counsel. The emergency meeting video played in open court. Joseph's voice boomed, "Handle it fast before Xavier triggers an audit." The room gasped. Bank transfers matched Mason's photos perfectly. Elena took the stand and dissected every forged document. Their defense collapsed like a sandcastle hit by a wave. The judge shook his head and banged the gavel. "The evidence is indisputable." Then came sentencing after days of brutal arguments that left me drained. Joseph Shaw, 6 years in prison for fraud and embezzlement. The once proud patriarch, now frail and silver-haired, lowered his head in an old suit as he was led away, eyes vacant. Andre Shaw, 4 years for conspiracy and document forgery. He shot me a look of pure hatred, but the defiance was gone. Olivia Shaw, 3-year suspended sentence and heavy fines for aiding fraud. She sobbed uncontrollably in the defendant's chair, hands covering her face, crocodile tears, too late. Laurel Shaw, administrative penalties and fines. She sat crying, looking at me as if begging for mercy that would never come. The court confirmed me as the sole legal owner of Shawleen Media. All illicit assets were seized and returned to the company. The gavel fell. The courtroom erupted, reporters sprinting out, crowds outside cheering. Justice had prevailed, but to me, it tasted bitter. The media feasted on the fall of the Shaw dynasty. My name was on every front page, this time as the victim betrayed by his own blood. Xavier Shaw, from victim to champion of justice. Variety. Talk shows begged for interviews. I turned them all down. I didn't want fame built on this pain. Social media overflowed with support. #Justice for Xavier trending worldwide, people sharing the story like a Hollywood tragedy. But inside, I felt hollow. When I stepped out of the courthouse into a storm of flashing cameras and shouted questions, "Xavier, how do you feel knowing your own family betrayed you? Any regrets about suing your parents and brother?" I paused for 1 second, looked straight into the lenses and said, "Justice has been served." Then I walked away through the sea of flashes. In my chest was only cold emptiness. I knew it was over, but the wounds would hurt for a very long time. I drove back to the hotel thinking about the future. Shawleen would rise again, stronger than ever. But me, a man who had lost his family, lost his faith in love, still at least I was finally free. After the trial, I began rebuilding my life from scratch, like a survivor crawling out of the wreckage of a hurricane. I left that cramped hotel and rented a small apartment on the quiet outskirts of LA, no bustling streets to remind me of the past. Every morning I woke early, brewed strong black coffee, and threw myself into work. Shawleen Media, my life's creation, had been shaken to its core by the family scandal. Clients hesitated, artists walked away, stock prices plummeted. I poured every waking hour into saving it because it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. I met with the team, fired everyone who had been loyal to Andre, hired fresh young talent untainted by the past. We launched a new album for an indie artist, promoted it hard, and proved the company was still alive. Every meeting, every signed contract was another step away from the abyss. The media slowly shifted. At first, they circled like vultures, camping outside the office, digging into my history. But as Shawleen began to recover, revenue climbing, new deals pouring in, the headlines changed. Xavier Shaw, from betrayed victim to unbreakable leader. Forbes. They wrote about how I stood alone against my own family and pulled the company back from the brink. A year passed in the blink of an eye, but the scars remained hidden beneath the surface of success. One morning, while checking emails in the office, a paper letter arrived, plain white envelope postmarked from a federal prison. A visitation request from my father and brother. My heart clenched, my hand trembled slightly as I read, "Son, we need to see you. Please come." I hesitated, tempted to tear it up and forget. But a part of me, the little boy who once craved a real family, urged me to go. One last time to face them and finally close this painful chapter. I drove to the federal prison on the outskirts of LA where Joseph and Andre were being held. Laurel, who had only received administrative penalties, would also be there to visit. It was a golden sunny afternoon, yet my heart pounded like it did the first day I walked into court. The prison, high concrete walls, razor wire, heavy air sent chills down my spine. I went through security, signed in, and waited in the visitation room, a sterile glass partition space with plastic chairs and phones. Joseph appeared first. Through the glass, he shuffled in wearing a gray prison jumpsuit. His hair had gone much whiter, his face gaunt and aged beyond recognition from the last time I saw him in court. The once dominant, cunning patriarch was now just a tired old man, shoulders slumped under the weight of age and incarceration. He sat down, picked up the phone, and tried to look composed, but his hand shook when he saw me. "Xavier, thank you for coming." His voice rasped through the receiver as if from another world. I stared at him in silence for a moment, taking in the deeper wrinkles, the dull eyes from sleepless nights. He had once taught me business. He had also masterminded the theft of everything I built. Andre came in next, escorted by a guard. He looked thinner, hair cropped short, the once arrogant eyes now filled with regret and shame. He sat beside our father but couldn't meet my gaze. His eyes stayed fixed on the table, shoulders trembling slightly. I remembered him sneering at me in court. Now he looked like a beaten dog, stripped of his vice president swagger. I looked at them, two men who had once been my family, through the thick glass as if watching an old faded film. I didn't shout. I didn't lash out as they might have expected. My voice was calm, heavy, final. I didn't come here to forgive or to reconnect. I came to look at you one last time. You chose betrayal long ago, favoring Andre since childhood, plotting to steal Charlene, using Olivia as bait. The price you're paying today is entirely of your own making, not mine. My words hung in the dead silence of the room. Joseph bowed his head. Andre clenched his fists. Joseph was the first to speak, voice shaking. Son, I was wrong. I thought I was protecting the family, but I was blind. Please forgive this old man. His eyes glistened, but I saw only the lateness of it. Andre mumbled, barely audible. I had to strain to hear. I was jealous of you, Xavier. I thought you took everything from me, but I'm the one who destroyed it all. I'm sorry. He finally looked up, eyes red, but couldn't hold my gaze for long. I listened, unmoved. Forgiveness doesn't matter anymore, I said. It changes nothing. I've learned to live without you. Charlene is stronger than ever. I have a new life. You stay here and think about what you did. My words cut like a blade. Joseph lowered his head further. Andre turned away. Laurel, sitting nearby, sobbed quietly. I stood, set the phone down, and turned my back. As I walked out of that visitation room, a profound lightness washed over me. As if for the first time in my life, I had finally set down a family I had never truly belonged to. My steps felt weightless. The burden of the past no longer pressed on my shoulders. I walked through the oppressive prison corridors, past the heavy iron doors, and stepped outside. Into the sunlight beyond the prison gates, I realized I had finally freed myself from the shadows of the past. Ahead lay a future entirely of my own making. The warm LA sun wrapped around me, the breeze carried the scent of fresh grass, and I breathed deep, truly breathed, for the first time in years. No more Olivia, no more Andre, no more parents. Only me, Xavier Shaw, free and strong. I drove away with my favorite song on the radio, and for the first time in a year I smiled, a real smile. A new life was waiting, and I was ready to seize it. After all the storms, the sleepless nights in that hotel, the chaotic trial with endless camera flashes, the final moment staring at my parents and brother through prison glass, I decided I had to change everything completely. I could no longer stay in Los Angeles. The city was overflowing with painful memories. The streets where I once walked with Olivia, the Shawline offices where Andre sat as vice president wearing his fake smile, the family home where every dinner had always favored him. Every corner, every building felt like a knife twisting in my heart. I sold Charlene Media, my life's work built from sweat and tears in my parents' garage with those first demos on an old computer. I also sold the old house in LA, once my home, now nothing more than a prison of memories with hidden cameras that had recorded betrayal. I needed to leave the place that held the deepest wounds of my life, where every morning I woke up feeling dragged back into a dark past. I bought a small wooden house by the sea with a porch overlooking the waves and began a new life. No more tense meetings, no more million-dollar contracts. Just me, the ocean, and silence. In the early days, I wandered the beach barefoot on wet sand, listening to the waves whisper comfort. I avoided news, avoided social media where people still talked about the collapse of the Shaw dynasty. Instead, I read books, ran along the shore, and thought about what I truly wanted. My life had once been ruled by ambition, family, and betrayal. Now I wanted simplicity and truth. I opened a small seaside cafe and mini recording studio where local artists could come play music freely. No competition, no ego, no money involved. Just pure music like the kind I fell in love with when I first started. The idea came to me one afternoon while sitting on the beach listening to the distant guitar of a street musician. I hung a sign, "Free for local artists. Play freely, just share the joy." At first the place was quiet, only a few regulars stopping by for espresso and to hear me play piano. But word spread. Local artists began showing up. A guy with an acoustic guitar singing folk, a girl playing classical violin, an indie rock band experimenting. No contracts, no fees, just free coffee and a warm atmosphere. Here in peaceful Monterey, I met Aylin Brooks, a landscape painter who lived quietly and gently. She walked in one drizzly morning, long brown hair soaked, carrying her paints and easel. "A hot tea, please," she smiled, her voice soft like the waves. I made her tea and we talked about nothing important, the weather, the sea. Aylin never asked about my past, never pried into my wounds. She simply listened and stayed when I needed company. She lived in a small house nearby, painting landscapes to sell to tourists. Crashing waves, Monterey sunsets, full of warm colors. The first time I visited her studio, the air smelled of oil paint, and she was working on a piece of the Carmel Cliffs. "Go ahead, try painting. Don't be scared," she laughed, handing me a brush. I clumsily stroked a few lines and we burst out laughing. Aylin didn't heal me with grand words or deep philosophy. She did it with quiet presence, pulling me out to watch the waves on windy afternoons, spending evenings painting, making coffee, sharing small stories that had nothing to do with old pain. We talked about migrating birds, favorite coffee beans, good books, never once about scandals or betrayal. She knew I had been hurt. She saw it in my distant gaze sometimes, but she never dug. She just held me in silence when I needed it. The first time we kissed under a seaside sunset, I felt my heart beat alive again. Not the wild passion I once had with Olivia, but a deep, steady calm like the rhythm of the tide. Time passed, and a year later we married in a small beach ceremony. Only Aylin's family and a few close Monterey friends. No loud music, no lavish stage. Just a sunset painting the water red, the gentle sound of waves, and two broken people who had found each other again. One evening, as Aylin and I sat on the beach with our feet buried in warm sand, the sun a blazing red ball sinking into the sea, I looked toward the horizon, and thoughts flooded in. I thought about the long journey. From Leon's phone call, the horrifying photo, the nights watching hidden cameras, the noisy trial, the final prison visit. It all felt like a long, painful movie full of lessons. I realized life isn't measured by what we lose, money, companies, family, but by what we have the courage to let go of, to stand up from, and to live better afterward. I walked away from Charlene, from blood family, from old beliefs about love. I let them all go, rose from the ashes, and built a new life, simple, honest, and meaningful. I gently squeezed my wife's hand and said the greatest lesson I ever learned. Not everyone who carries the name family truly loves us. But one person who loves us sincerely, even if they come late, is worth more than a whole family that betrayed us. Aylin looked at me, eyes shining in the fading light, and nodded. "You're right. I'm here for you, not your past." Those words were sweet as honey, soothing the last wounded parts of my soul. I want to offer this advice to anyone who is hurt like I did. Walk away when your heart is broken. Don't cling to what is shattered. Don't fear loneliness. Sometimes solitude is the chance to find yourself again. Rebuild your life your way, not according to anyone else's expectations. And believe that after terrible people, there is always someone kind enough to deserve you. Don't rush to close your heart. Keep it open, and life will bring beautiful surprises. I whispered those words into the sea breeze, hoping they would travel far and reach someone in pain. The ocean wind blew, carrying the cool of late afternoon. Aylin rested her head on my shoulder. I smiled, the lightest smile in years, and knew I had finally found my peace, not where I was born, but where I chose to be reborn. The Monterey waves rolled in steadily. The sun slipped below the horizon, leaving a sky of purple and pink. We stood up hand in hand and walked back to the cafe where a local artist's guitar was already playing. This is my life now. Hot coffee, paintings, free music, and quiet love. No more shadows of betrayal. Only the light I created myself. And I know no matter how much the past hurt, the future always belongs to those brave enough to keep walking.